Cotesia, short story by John Jones. Armed with a rolled-up newspaper, Raymond Stockton hit out at a large wasp that had invaded his bedsit, but missed and hit the frame of a print of the Andes in winter. It flew around a shadeless light bulb in the middle of the living room of his abode, even though the light was not on. Another swing at it produced no effect, as the insect simply flew out of the way. Normally he didn't mind wasps, or basically any other insect, as long as they didn't invade his home. But this one was an irritant. For 3 hours it had flew around, and had shown no signs of wanting to escape. Occasionally it had landed on the ceiling and proceeded to crawl around, as though knowing Raymond didn't want it there, but stayed because it knew it was being a pest. The insect didn't seem to be an ordinary wasp, as it was mostly black and around an inch long. Landing on the ceiling again, it proceeded on another walkabout, as if it knew it was fairly safe from Raymond, who was 46, 5 feet 4 inches, with long, straggly hair, and a moustache that drooped down the sides of his mouth and disappeared into an unkempt stubble. He couldn't hit the ceiling as it was 8 inches out of reach, and standing on a chair was no use as the wasp simply walked or flew away. He wondered what he was going to do. It can't stay. Normally, insects, if left or forgotten about, having found their way into a home, simply vanished after a while, and are never seen again. But he guessed that this would not be the same. He wondered if perhaps it was thinking of making a home here. Maybe conditions were right. Raymond hoped not. He valued his privacy. Although not exactly a loner, he was very untrustworthy of basically everybody. Lifelong benefits cheat. Didn't acknowledge his neighbors, and mostly spoke only when spoken to. He liked it that way. Yet his solitude had been invaded, and he could not be content knowing that the wasp was here. There it was, near the kitchen. It decided to launch itself from the ceiling and fly around in a kind of lethargic manner that seemed to mean it was in no hurry, was maybe giving itself some exercise, or was happy in the fact that it had found a new home. Raymond swiped and swiped at it, but it was no use. He missed every time. It flew back to the ceiling and began wandering around again, seemingly without a care in the world. Bug spray, that's what I need, he thought, and saw that he still had time to visit the local convenience store that sold virtually everything. After around 20 minutes, he came back, armed with a can of Bugged Out, but found that the wasp had gone, or at least was missing. He stood in the middle of the room, ready to fire, but there was nothing. Perhaps it had decided not to make this place its home after all, he thought. After a few minutes, he put the can on the windowsill, ready to snatch up if needed. For the rest of the night, he was aware that it could come from anywhere. But it didn't. He couldn't concentrate properly on his television or radio programs, and 5 scouts of the bedsit revealed nothing, and he went to bed that night, satisfied that it had gone. Darkness pervaded the bedroom, and Raymond had been asleep an hour, unaware that other eyes were looking down from the ceiling. The wasp was satisfied that he was fast asleep, and flew down and landed on his pillow. It scuttled beneath his thin duvet and clambered onto his stomach. Raymond was awoken by a sharp stabbing, as though he had been jabbed by a dart. He flung the duvet back and managed to switch on the bedside lamp. The instant he did, he saw that hovering a few inches from him was the wasp, only this time he saw its small face. It was human, and watched him for a couple of seconds before flying away, out of his sight. No, it can't be, he thought, clutching his aching stomach. Impossible. He recognized the face. It was of his best friend, Charlie Benson, who had died 2 months ago in prison. Was this part of a dream? A nightmare, he wondered, confused. The pain told him that it was not, that it was real. But what about the wasp's face? Perhaps that part was a dream, he thought. He did, after all, jolt from sleep. Yes, he guessed. The wasp had stung him, and now it was going to die anyway. He was satisfied with that explanation, and went back to sleep, and found himself in the morning staring out of the window of his bedsit at the road below, but not really seeing it, as he was thinking of his friend, whom the wasp had reminded him of. Charlie Benson. Raymond missed him, but standards had to be kept, rules maintained, the law obeyed, and the fact that Charlie had crossed one line meant the severing of a 15-year-old friendship that Raymond had dissolved. Charlie had been good on computers. He was quite adept at using cyberspace, and basically used it to download films and music illegally to burn onto discs in order to sell. In Raymond's view, this was unacceptable, as it was theft, and had called the police, who had arrested Charlie and gave him a £2,000 fine, which he refused to pay. He chose instead to take a 6-month prison sentence, and was locked away with dangerous members of society who had committed far worse crimes. One such criminal, who had received news of his girlfriend's liaison with another man, was in a foul mood, overheard Charlie's conversation with another convict, and thought they were talking about him. He attacked them both that night, stabbing and killing Charlie, and injuring the other man. Raymond had shed no tears. After approximately an hour, he was sitting on a bench in his nearby park, enjoying the solitude and atmosphere. It was a rare, small space of greenery, with a path that bisected it diagonally, and was twice the size of a football pitch, but was slowly being eaten into by the growing concrete jungle that surrounded it for miles on each side. Sometimes it became quite crowded, and the feeling of seclusion would vanish. But now it was fine. He was contemplating whether or not to stay, or go and find a quiet corner of a library somewhere and read a newspaper, when a sharp pain bolted through him from his stomach. Another came, then another, and Raymond fell forward from the bench onto the gravel path. He tried to yell but found he couldn't, as the pain persisted. He felt liquid seep through his shirt and saw that it was blood, and he rolled onto his back, clutching his stomach, but his hands went inside and felt a movement, squirming. He managed to look up and see that there were many small larvae, maggots writhing. When Charlie Benson had passed to the other side, he discovered that reincarnation was real, and found a way to choose what he came back as, and where, as well as to alter the genetic makeup of the appearance, reminding Raymond of who was the conscious mind within the wasp. It meant also that reproduction was a lot quicker than normal, and those maggots inside his stomach began to change and alter, emerge as a distorted version of the Cotesia wasp, the same as the one that had invaded Raymond's home. They all stretched their wings and flew up and around Raymond. Then the swarm of around 300 all stopped and hovered, all with Charlie Benson's dour, hate-filled face. Raymond simply lay there bleeding, looking at them and understanding. He watched as they flew away in all directions,